Well, staying in the Middle East, as violent unrest spreads around Beirut, what began as a protest against the garbage pileup has turned into a full-blown political crisis, with people venting their frustrations over an inept government. Now the question is, who will take the helm of the movement? Our correspondent Ellie Ochenberg takes a look.
Is the Arab Spring reaching Lebanon?
I think the people woke up, understood, and got to know very well what to do. Come here, protest and remove not the wall, but the problem behind the wall.
What began as a wave of youth protests over mounds of uncollected garbage on the streets of Beirut has deepened into a much more substantial dispute, laying bare existing tensions within Lebanon.
The issue is far more than the garbage issue. We are still here because we still have a lot of rights that are our rights that we want and we claim the government to grant us. Removing ourselves from these streets is not acceptable. We are not going to leave any of the streets until we finish demanding our right.
But now there's a growing fear that the popular uprising will be hijacked by political powers, namely Hezbollah. The organization has already expressed its support for the anti-government protests, saying they reflect the, quote, endemic and accumulated corruption of the past 2 decades and policies that only serve personal and political interests at the expense of citizens.
There is a limit to patience, and my patience is tied to yours. If you decide to be more patient so we can extract solutions, I will be patient with you. And if you decide you won't tolerate any more, I am with you, and I will take the decision at the right time.
But Hezbollah's interests are far more profound than just rubbish. The Shiite group, backed by Iran, views Lebanon's Prime Minister Tamam Salam as an ally of Sunni Saudi Arabia, an interpretation which has long paralyzed the Lebanese government. The latest focus of the feud, electing a president, a process which has been stalled for more than a year now. This post is reserved for a Christian in the sectarian power-sharing system, which sees the prime minister's post kept for a Sunni and the parliament speaker held for a Shiite. The Lebanese parliament has extended its term twice without elections and has done very little due to the lawmakers' insistence on electing a president first. This ongoing power struggle is raising concerns that the current wave of protests will be used by Hezbollah, which is armed with the motivation to topple the government, to destabilize the situation even further. If that case sounds familiar, it's sufficient to look a few years back and a few kilometers south and recall the Egyptian revolution and the political attempts by both the Egyptian military and the Muslim Brotherhood to hijack the public discontent. The question is whether Hezbollah will do the same with Lebanon's garbage protests. Past experience has shown that when it comes to furthering its aims, the Iranian-backed organization is not afraid to get its hands dirty.
Well, now we're joined in the studio by our diplomatic correspondent, Ellie Ochenberg, and Avi Melamed, head of Intel and Middle Eastern Affairs at the Eisenhower Institute. Thank you both for being with us here.
Good evening.
Ellie, great report here now. It leaves us asking questions about Hezbollah and what's next for this group in relation to these protests. Do you think we're about to see a complete Hezbollah takeover of this movement?
Well, first we need to understand that this protest really started authentic. We're talking about students mainly from the American University in Beirut. I read in a few places that they called it the hipsters protest. And again, they basically said, we're tired of hearing about IS, about Jabhat al-Nusra, about security matters. We need someone to pick up the garbage from the streets. But as said, and as we've seen in the report, it was sort of hijacked by more radical powers, and then the clashes with police started. And now it really is a crucial time for this protest to see whether it will turn very political with the participation of groups such as Hezbollah, which is very much willing to see the government being toppled, or will it stay on the civil side? As for now, it seems that it takes the political turn pretty heavily.
Well, Avi, so far we're seeing what appear to be some of the first major Middle East uprisings without a dictator in power and without Islamist movement running the movement in the street here now. Does Hezbollah want to take over Lebanon, do you think?
No, not at this point. We have to remember Hezbollah is massively involved now in the war in Syria. when we look at the situation in Lebanon, everything is connected one to the other. It's a wider picture. The protest itself in Lebanon, obviously the trigger was the whole issue of the garbage, but actually Lebanon is struggling with many, many inner challenges economically, socially, culturally, politically. Reminding you, they don't have a president yet. It's been like almost more than a year and a half.
A quarter of the population is refugees from Syria. Is the country at risk of complete collapse at this point?
The country is definitely, I would say, on a very slippery slope, because we have to remember that as part of the ramifications of the war in Syria. By the way, Hezbollah, who is member of this government, the Lebanese government, who declared neutrality regarding the war in Syria, Hezbollah himself participated in the war in Syria, basically dictating Iranian foreign policy on the Lebanese. The Lebanese are very upset about it. The Lebanese are very upset with the inner challenges of the political system. There is a growing discontent in the context of the two things that I just mentioned. Lebanon is definitely a smoking volcano for a long time.
And the most important thing is that this mechanism of, pleasing all sectarians' needs, that they will have Shiite representatives, Sunni, Christian, simply does not work. And we see a dysfunction in government for again, as I said, over a year now, and it doesn't seem to go to a good direction at the moment.
Eli Ochenberg, our diplomatic correspondent, thank you very much for bringing us the story and for being with us in studio. Avi